We made it. Episode 8. My thumbs were down. Just 4 fingers on each side. Episode 8. We're at the end. This is Craftsman sockets. There's a lot of Craftsman sockets. I probably added another third again of my inventory just from this auction haul. And there's a lot of really good Craftsman sockets. So we're kind of going to break it down, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail when it goes into the more standard stuff. But I'll show you the pile of 1/2 inch with a count, the pile of 3/8 inch with a count, and then a pile of the 1/4 inch with a count. And then we'll get into the cool stuff I pulled out. There's definitely some cool stuff. And there's a couple things that would have been really close contenders for being my favorite, except the very last piece. That one's got to be my favorite because I don't have, it's the very first one I have of a Craftsman C-Series socket. So if you know what the C-Series is, that's the very first Craftsman sockets. They only made them for a few years before they got into BEs and H's and Circle U's and Circle K's and all the other stuff that we know is early Craftsman. They would have things that were like C-71 or whatever. I see them online, usually in sets. Usually they're pretty expensive. I've never actually found one in the wild. And it was in a bag with some, it was a Circle U stuff, some Plum stuff. So that one had to be my favorite because it's the first C-Series that I picked up. Let me know what your favorite is. Let me know what your favorite was in the whole series. That C-socket's my favorite in the whole series just because I never thought I'd find one in the wild like that. So anyway, hope you enjoy this one. Remember, I'm burnout. I love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. All right, so we're going to dive into Craftsman sockets now. This is all the 1/2 inch drive stuff. So we've got this big, probably 18 inch, 24 inch maybe, extension. You got this probably 10 inch, 8 or 10 inch extension. And we've got one universal. These are all kind of the run-of-the-mill sockets. So these are SAEs, these are metrics. We have exactly 100 SAEs in 1/2 inch drive and 27 metrics, all shallow. Mostly 12 points, but there's a handful of 6 points. These things all are just going to go in a bath, get cleaned up. None of them look too bad. Probably one of the worst ones, at least on the inside, is like this. So they look, the majority look fine. I don't remember seeing any Asian ones in here. I know the 1/4s and 3/8s have a few Asian sockets, but most are US. A lot of V, VV, EE, and Gs in here. So they all look pretty good. They'll all get thrown in with some other sockets I've got. They'll get cleaned up, put together in sets, and end up at the flea market booth. So let's move on to the next set. So now we're looking at all the 3/8 stuff. So just in sockets, there was 378. I forgot I didn't count those. It was 369 plus those 9. So 378 sockets. Again, metric, SAE. Not a whole lot of real special stuff in here. That one just is taller, so I was looking at it. It's a 6 point. But here's kind of some of the stuff, and then of course, this set, which is that one of them, yeah. It's a G2. Still in the plastic holder. Just needs cleaned up. That'll be cool to have. Decent amount of deeps on both sides. And then we've got the crow's feet. There's one Isco. It's a 7/8, and that was just floating in a box. I just put it with the others. The Craftsman, I've got a 9/16, a 1/2, and a 7/16. and they're V's. And then one, I think this is a number 3. Tell us, no, just a part number. Made in USA. I think that's a number 3, Phillips. And then we've got some of the things that are a little bit different here. So we'll start off with this 6-point is the crustiest socket here by far. That one's going to take some work. It may not be too pretty when I'm done. I'm not sure. We'll just have to see. It'll be usable though. The square's still in good shape. The 6-point's still in really good shape. So it'll be a nice usable socket. It may have a little bit of flaking and pitting. And then there was maybe a set of SAE that are these 9 ACs. That's a date code. But these are, I think, Chinese. They could be Taiwanese. That's a 6-point. Like I said, I think there's one set of these in there because I ran into a handful of them. Also, probably 1 or maybe 2 sets of these. This is a 10 millimeter, but notice no hash marks, but it's an EE. There are also some V's. The V's are a little bit older. The EEs are fairly new. And then in the next round of, or not the next round, but a couple of rounds later of sockets, I pulled out some of the more special stuff. And there are some metrics with the double line, like line above and line below V's that were kind of the first after the flying V's. Also, we had, there's maybe 1 or 2 sets of these etched ones, the high visibilities. And then there are some of these when I talk about the knurl at the top on a metric. That's what I mean, as opposed to this one that has the little knurling at the bottom. So the knurl at the top, these are ones that originally came in the little tin trays. So the tray comes up the side, and then just the top of the socket sticks out. So Craftsman did the knurling at the top, that way it could be in the tray and you could see that it was a metric. You knew to grab the right tray. You didn't have to pull one out every time. So those are kind of cool. I'll probably pluck 1 set of them out. There's probably 2 to 3 sets in here. I'll probably pull 1 set of those out for me because I don't think I have enough to make a full set. And these are V's. And I'm putting together the tin trays with everything in it. We've got, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extensions with the longer 6-inch or whatever extensions. There is 1 1/2-inch drive that I put in that box for some reason. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the shorter 2 or 3-inch or whatever it is. 2 universal joints and 2 adapters, 3/8 to 1/4. So with that, I'll pull these down and we'll pull up the quarters. So this group, between my eyesight, magnifiers really help with quarter drives, and all these depots wanting to fall over, I just counted them all and put them in here. There are 337 sockets and 3 of these extensions. So I think that puts us over 800 sockets now that we've looked at just in standard sockets. Nothing real special about them. I was going to say too, with my eyesight, I thought this belonged in there, but apparently it doesn't. Just kidding. I wasn't sure where to put this. It's a 3/4. It's the only 3/4 piece that came in it. It's a, flip it over. It's a V. It does move. Needs a good cleaning. But always good to have a 3/4 T-bar. If nothing else, it's good to remind people why you're the boss, right? I'll get these set over to the side and I'll pull out the special ones, the one you guys have been waiting for. As promised, guys, Here are the more special sockets. So when I say more special, most of these are flying V. All these 1/2-inch drive are flying V. We go from 1 1/8 to 7/16. That gives us 1, 2, 3 complete sets. One set from 1 1/16 to 7/16. One set from 1 inch to 7/16. One set from 3/4 to 7/16. And one set from 11/16 to 7/16. So that's awesome. I will say that 2 of these sets, and they're only labeled from 1 inch to 7/16. So 2 that were from here, right? Yeah. From here over were bagged separately. All the rest of these in the 1/2-inch, everything in the 3/8 and everything in the 1/4 drive was just randomly mixed into bags. Some would say V series, and they'd be V, double line V, single line V, and even VV. And if you don't understand what I'm saying when I say flying V, that's the double line V. I'll get a good clean one up here. So that's that. Some people call it double line V, some call it a flying V. They made variants of this from the late 40s until about 1970. They're still selling them in stock, from what I've read, up into 73. Just inventory that was there. We did get a 1/2-inch drive, 13/16 flying V spark plug wrench, or spark plug socket. We got 2 6-points in a 1/2-inch drive. Everything else is 12. And that's a 1/2-inch at 9/16. We got a 1/2-inch universal that's nice and tight. So that covers all the 1/2-inch stuff. Now as we get over here into 3/8, I've got a set of deep wells from 13/16 to 3/8. Yeah, and I did find a 7/16 in there. The height just looks so much different. The only one that's missing here, I think I ended up putting 2 of these side by side. We've got a 5/8. So 3/4, so 11/16 is the only one that isn't there. And then there was also a 6-point 1/2-inch in those deeps. These were on the rail, so I take that back. There was a set of 3/8. These were on the rail. And that goes from 3/4 down to 3/8. I did forget those were on the rail. These all line up with the sizes, so not enough to make a second set. There are 4 6-points. So we've got an 11/16. Sorry, 5 6-points. 2 5/8 and a 1/2-inch. We got this guy. So this was somebody's ingenuity. I always liked the homemade tools, but it's a 5/8 flying V that someone welded a chunk of pipe in the middle of. 6-point. Apparently they needed a longer socket than what they had. So that will go in my flying V set. I think it's cool. Doesn't, it's not really worth anything, doesn't make anything special. Here we've got a 1/2-inch 8-point or double square. And then these 3 are 3 very hard to find ones. Their Flying V, 15 millimeter. Flying V, 12 millimeter. And another Flying V, 12 millimeter. So I did get 3 metrics. Now let's see, while we're in 3/8, we'll go ahead and talk about this one. So this one, if you look at it, just looks like a T9, whatever, made in USA. And then when you go to look at the drive, hey, wait a minute, that's a 6-point. There's a 3/8 drive. So that one was stamped upside down. So yeah, that's the second one I've gotten that's stamped upside down like this. What I found cool with this one, the other one is a G3. This is a G1. My other one might be a G1. I take that back. I'll have to look at it. I'll have to see what size it is too. It's upstairs on my desk because that's the only one I'd found before. Pay no attention to these appearing over here. We'll look at the quarter drive SAEs first. So this one's a 1/2 inch Flying V, 12-point deep. And then we have 12 points over here from 1/2 inch down to 7/32. We have 6 points from 1/2 inch. Actually, that one's a VV. I'm not sure how, but I saw that those two lines. Are they all that way? No. So I go from 7/16, I guess. Down to 3/16 in the Flying V's. And I do a duplicate at the 11/32. Then I've got this first generation Flying V. I've got 7/16, 6-point. (11/32), 6-point. Quarter, 6-point. And 7/32, 6-point. And these two 6-points were also there. It's a 7/32 and a 3/16. Actually, did I? Yeah. So when I say first generation, what I mean is, look at this 7/16. So this would be what you find mostly in the Flying V's. This was what I call the first generation, which was like 1945 to 47 or 48, something like that. See how this one's more barrel shape, and this one, you've got this slow taper up. So when you see the ones with the slow taper up, those are the first generation. This one, this 11/32, and this 11/32 is a little bit, this one it's easier to see when they're right next to each other. Let's see how that one's got the slow tapered step. It's a bit of a step here as opposed to the complete taper. That's still like the first generation style. So even the Flying V's had weird variants. And then we have two 8-points over here. Flying V, 5/16. And quarter. And then these are the first generation style in 5/16 and a quarter. And they're the double square or 8 points. Next up, we've got the metrics. Now, none of these quarter drive metrics are Flying V. But they are, and any of you craftsman experts out there that know this better than I do, this is just what I've been told. I have not seen any proof or anything else, so I just want to put that caveat out there. But if you know something different, let me know. Because this is what I've been told from 3 or 4 different people. This set goes from 14, does not have a 13, and goes down to 4. The shallows go from 12 to 4. So we'll look at the 14. And what I was told, the first generation after the Flying V, they have the line above and below. As you can see, above Craftsman and under Made in the USA, there's a line for each. And then it's a single line V, 14 millimeter. Now these are ones made for a metal socket tray. So they've got the knurling at the top. But other than a 13 millimeter, which may be in the box, I may have missed it. And then I'm not sure if the shallows are supposed to have a 14 and 13, or maybe the 14 doesn't, maybe this is a set and this is an extra that someone bought a size bigger. I'm not 100% sure. But that gives me some nice metrics that I will put with my Flying V stuff, because it's that next generation after. And then finally, we get on to the oldest stuff here. So these were in a separate bag. They were labeled 6-piece SAE Circle U sockets. And $50, I think is what the guy had on them, yeah. So anyway, we'll take a peek. You can see they're Craftsman. That's a 1-inch, and that is the Circle U. The Circle U was made by Plum. And today that's Proto. And they were made right during that transition, so I think some were made by Plum, some were made by Proto, but there's no real difference in them. So it's not quite a full set. I've got a 1-inch, 7/8, so there's no 15, 3/4, so there's no 11, 9/16, so there's no 5/8. We've got the half, and we've got the 7/16. Now I've got a full set of these in the house, but I also have a second Circle U ratchet that George gave me from You Want to Watch. So now I'm putting together another set of sockets to put with that ratchet, apparently. So that's cool. And then this one, this is the first of these I've picked up, because I don't buy them on eBay. People want way too much money, and I've just not found them in the wild. So this one is a 7/16 Craftsman, and it's the C14. So if you know about Craftsman, the C series was the very first series of Craftsman sockets. So from 1927 to, I forget, 32, I think, something like that, they did the C series. Again, don't quote me on those years. I didn't look them up. 27 is when Craftsman started, so I know that's when these started. But I've not picked up a C in the wild. And ironically, this was not in with any of the sockets. So this one I found in the toolbox that had, now you have to make sure you watch all my episodes. It had the 1930s Craftsman screwdrivers, had the 1950s Craftsman screwdrivers, I forget what they're called, Tough something. They had those. It had the some older Dunlop wrenches. It had the amber handle Dunlop hammer, and it had the snap-on L-bar, which I have been doing some looking into, and that could be, it's a Craftsman number 1, or sorry, a Snap-on number 1 bar. Now, the question is, was it something that was manufactured? The literature I've read says that they released 4 different versions before they settled on the one that they went with for the next year. It doesn't say what those 4 versions were, but the one they went with has a longer handle that bends around. It kind of looks like a Walden, like an early Walden with the like teardrop shaped loop, and you can hold on to it on that loop. But anyway, this guy was in that box, so everything in there was like period, not everything, but most of the things in there were period correct to match this. And then there were some stuff from the 50s and then some screwdrivers from the 70s that had mange. So that takes us through the end of the Craftsman sockets. Lots of really cool stuff here. This box is I'm going to go through my Flying V stuff. I already know that the C series and the Circle H is going to go over in the top of my industrial box. And I'll see what all I've got. A lot of this stuff, especially these guys, I know I've got multiple sets of these. They'll end up cleaned up and in the booth. Some of this stuff will end up cleaned up and in the booth. So that's the end of the Craftsman sockets.